Car accidents happen every day, and knowing what to do next is vital. There's no question that car collisions can be traumatic on many levels, financially, emotionally, and even physically. We are fortunate to have a doctor here with us today to tell us what we can do if we are ever faced with one of these situations. Anthony Crothers, Doctor of Chiropractic, better known as Doc Tony, is here today to tell us what we can do if we've been injured in an auto accident. Doc Tony, tell us, what happens to our body when we've been injured in an auto accident?
Well, Terry, when people are involved in a car accident, let's talk about a common accident.
Okay.
When people get rear-ended, when they get hit from the back. And what that's commonly called is what's called whiplash. And the reason they call it whiplash is the individual is sitting in their car. And if you can imagine, back in the day, cars would be similar to the seat that I'm sitting in.
Yes.
They had bucket seats that stopped. And what happened when people would get rear-ended, their head is going to snap back. And then it snaps forward.
Wow.
The reason they put headrest in cars is that's what stops the head now from accelerating backwards. Back in the 50s and 60s, before they put those headrests in, people were suffering more severe damage to their spinal cord, because there was nothing to stop the acceleration of the head from going back. And that's why they actually put those headrests in. So when somebody gets rear-ended, their head's going to accelerate back into the impact. So it's going to go back, and then it's going to go forward. This happens suddenly, and it happens violently and abruptly. So one could kind of equate this. If I was to take my thumb and yank it back this way, I would overstretch, tear, or I would rupture the soft tissue that holds this thumb or this joint in place. So if you can equate that to the spine, you have so many joints that make up the spinal column.
Yes.
So when you overstretch, tear, or rupture the soft tissue now loses its ability to proper support the joint. So in time, if you lose the proper support, the proper function of the joint, it's now prone to premature arthritis, premature degeneration. So after somebody's been involved in a car accident, if they're stiff, if they're sore, without a doubt, that indicates that that soft tissue was either overstretched, it was torn, or it was ruptured. And it's very important for individuals to get put on a rehabilitative program.
Now, I've got to ask you about that. How important is it to get the proper treatment immediately?
Well, look at it this way. If somebody were to cut themselves, if I were to cut myself, the better I take care of that cut from the onset, the better the long-term prognosis is going to be.
Yes.
So at any part of the healing process, if I neglect to take care of it properly, there's going to be a consequence. In the first stage, if I don't take care of it properly, it could get infected.
Right.
In the second stage, if it's forming a scab and I pick at it, it can affect how the scar is going to form.
Okay.
And even after the scab falls off, if I'm not massaging it, if I'm not rubbing it, I'm not breaking down that tissue to make it more pliable, it can form keloided tissue. So now you can imagine that same tissue that's forming on the outside of your body, when you tear that tissue, that's pretty much what happens inside your body.
Okay.
Anyone that's ever sprained an ankle or stubbed a toe and it turns black and blue?
Yes.
That's bleeding that's happening inside, but you just can't see it because it's inside your body. So when somebody has an accident and they call me up either later that night or the next day and they're like, you know, Doc, I'm feeling just a little stiff or sore, I want them to understand. That's a trauma that made you stiff and sore. You're not stiff and sore because you worked too much or you slept in a bad position or you worked out. You're stiff and sore because your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, the discs that sit in between the vertebrae, they were torn, they were overstretched, or they were ruptured. So if one doesn't begin immediate treatment on rehabilitating this soft tissue, and to me, rehabilitating of your spine is one of the most important things to take care of.
Yes, proper treatment.
Absolutely, and the reason being is because your nervous system runs through the spinal column. See, on every individual, you have your brain, you have your central nervous system, and then exiting between these holes that are formed are nerves, and they go to all the parts of your body, to the tips of my finger. The only reason I'm able to feel that I'm touching that right there is there's a nerve that's functioning properly, and it takes that message back to my spinal cord and to a section of my brain that lets me know, hey, I can feel that, and I can move that.
So right now, you're talking about the importance of the spine to our life.
Absolutely, which equates back to when somebody has a car accident, why it's so important to take care of that soft tissue. See, if you don't take care of the soft tissue, now the joint biomechanically is not going to function right.
Okay.
So let's take an example, when we're talking about these discs. If everybody can look at those discs, that's what separates these vertebrae, and that's what allows the nerves to come out of. The disc also acts as a shock absorber. When you jump, when you walk, this absorbs the forces that go through your body. So if this spine is biomechanically working correct, these discs will last as long as we were intended to last. I mean, we weren't built for our spines to rot or decay prematurely. But just like with dental hygiene, if you're not taking care of your teeth, they're not going to last as long. And if you don't take care of your spine, practicing good spinal hygiene, it too will not last as long. So if it's not biomechanically working right, just these discs alone, they'll wear out prematurely.
Okay.
Similar to if you're driving your car.
Exactly.
You ever knock your alignment out of your car?
Yes.
And what happens to your tires?
It goes out.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I've knocked the alignment out of my car. You know, you hit a big pothole in your car, right? We all take it right back to the center of the road and we drive it. You let go of the wheel and you see, does it go right? Does it go left? Now, that's not the major problem right then, but if you don't get it fixed, 4 months from now, you let go of that wheel, it'll do a U-turn in the middle of the road. So what essentially is happening there, if the car is not working mechanically correct, the tires aren't going to last as long. They're going to wear out prematurely. So if the tires were meant to last for 35,000 miles and the car's out of alignment, they're going to be worn out at 7,000 miles.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening to individuals' bodies that are out there. Our bodies we're not built with the intention of being worn out. These are all systems in our body, whether it's the cardiovascular system, the gastrointestinal system, or the nervous system, or the musculoskeletal system. If you take care of it, it will last as long as it's intended to last. If you don't take care of it, it's going to wear out prematurely. And that's why it's so important after people have been involved in a motor vehicle accident or a slip and fall or any type of trauma where you sustain damage to your soft tissue, is to get that soft tissue rehabilitated properly, because that's what supports this joint, the joints of your spine, and that's where all the life force of your body runs through. Your brain is so important that it's encased completely in bone. Your spinal cord is so important that it's encased completely in bone, because nothing can happen to this. The spinal cord in the brain is like the circuit breaker of the building. If all the lights went out in here, we would go to the circuit breaker.
Yes.
If there was an outlet or a section that wasn't working, we would go check that particular wiring.
Exactly.
Well, it's the same thing if somebody has sciatica. You go to the wiring of the body. Sciatica is when somebody has numbness and tingling. I believe you had sciatica at one time.
Yes, I did.
When you get that sharp pain that's radiating down your leg, what that means is a nerve is being pinched. If you don't get that pressure off of that nerve, you're going to continue to have that sensation. So the bottom line is the spinal column is what houses all your life, all your impulses that keep you alive and keep your body functioning right, is through your nervous system. So if you're to let this become rotten and decay, it's going to greatly interfere with your quality of life. That's why people, after they've had accidents, and if you feel stiffness or soreness, a lot of times people say, you know, doc, I'm not hurt too bad. I'm a little stiff. Because people are tough and they don't really have an understanding of what's going on. Hey,
and they don't immediately call a doctor for treatment.
A lot of times people don't, because, hey man, we grew up tough. When we were kids, my mom gave me Robitussin, that's all you got. You had a little neck pain, hey, you got Robitussin, go to the back. So there's lots of people out there that just kind of try to deal with the symptom until it becomes unbearable. Plus it's expensive to get care, and not everyone understands exactly how the insurance works when they're involved in a car accident. People do have coverage under their automobile insurance if they've been up to date on making their payments and doing things right. So there is coverage to take care of people if they're involved in a car accident. But a lot of individuals just don't understand the true necessity, because who really thinks that neck stiffness is that serious?
Exactly.
But what they need to understand, if the neck is stiff or sore after you've been involved in an accident, it's sore because you tore or stretched the muscles.
Now, why is it that people complain about pain years after an auto accident?
Well, they complain of pain years after an auto accident because, like I described with the car being out of alignment, sometimes it takes a while before you get this symptom. You knock the car out of alignment, you got a little bit of a symptom.
Yes.
But 4 or 5 months down the road, if you don't take care of it, it becomes a much worse. So it's really important, if you have an injury or if you have a symptom, to see what that problem is, look to resolve it. Just don't keep suppressing the symptom.
Now, how can we get in contact with you?
Anybody that's ever injured in a car accident or has a question or a health question, you contact me, Doc Tony, at 1-888-888-8863.
If you find yourself in need of auto accident assistance, call Doc Tony at 1-888-888-8863 for a free consultation at one of his convenient locations, or you can visit his website at www.doctony.org.